Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to yet another episode of the Chiromo Hospital Group Live Conversation. I am excited today to be joined by two wonderful women who have made such a mark in their individual spaces. I am very excited to also have this conversation today because it is an important conversation, and it is about time that we do recognize the impact that this has on the daily lives of every individual. The conversation today is about loss of a child and mental health. My name is Gathoni Mbogwa. I am a clinical psychologist here at Chiromo Hospital Group, and I'm the head of digital relations. I will allow my panelists to introduce themselves. Allow me to start with Diana and then Jennifer. Diana, welcome to the panel. Please introduce yourself.
Thank you, Gathoni. My name is Diana Chepkoskei. I'm the lead psychologist at Still Mom Africa. I specialize in bereavement or grief care, specifically perinatal grief. That means families of experience stillbirth, miscarriages, neonatal death, and also maternal mental health specialists. So I get to work with families dealing with mental health challenges during pregnancy, after pregnancy, and early parenthood. And above all, also I deal with trauma management. I'm happy to be here. Thank you.
Wow, thank you so much for that. And I'm looking forward to just hearing more where your topic, your area, your forte is concerned. Jennifer, welcome to the conversation. Please introduce yourself.
Hi guys, I'm Jennifer. I am a counseling psychologist and I focus on trauma therapy as well as therapy for creatives. So I work in the creative industry with creatives. They struggle with a lot as in their field, and that's what I focus mainly on. But that does not mean I don't work with other demographics of people. I also work with other people. It's just that the creatives have been my main clients, but I work with everyone. And in trauma therapy, obviously, I meet a bunch of people from different fields, from different backgrounds, and that is where my work focuses on. I have a master's from the University of Nairobi. So yeah, thank you, Gathoni, for having me, and Chiromo as a whole. Thank you so much. Yep.
Right. Trauma therapy for creatives. Wow. Thank you. And more on trauma from Diana. So I told you guys this is going to be a wonderful conversation. As we delve into this conversation, allow me to start by asking my panelists in regards to what does loss of a child really entail, so that even as we go into the conversation, we cover holistically what that is. We start with Diana and then Jennifer. I think we can go from that side. Yes.
Thank you, Gathoni. Wow, loss of a child. It's one of the most traumatic experience a parent can go through. Because you're losing someone whom you have such a rich relationship with, despite even the period. Maybe the mom was pregnant for 2 weeks, 1 week, despite the period in utero. Like there's a relationship that has been developed, and losing that kind of relationship that is so intimate can be very devastating. So the loss of a child means loss of a physical baby, number one. It also means loss of purpose. There's the meaning that parents do attach to a child, and there are families who look forward to having a child. So when someone goes through loss, they grieve the loss of their baby, they grieve the loss of opportunities, the loss of the parenthood responsibility and role. So it's a whole complicated journey in terms of grieving the many parts of your life, the plans that that particular family had made for this baby. So the loss of a child covers a lot of aspects. And even when we come to grief therapy, we support families to identify the parts of their lives that has been mainly affected by that loss, and to sort of navigate and now be able to find meaning once again with what has been left, and even to recreate meaning moving forward.
Thank you so much, Diana, for that. You've said that very elaborately. I'm wondering, Jennifer, would you like to add on to that? Jennifer, I don't know whether it's the internet connection.
Yes, sorry. Can you hear me? Can you hear me? Can you hear me now? Gathoni?
Yes, Jennifer.
They can.
But
okay.
There's still some interruption in the sound.
Yes, I'm having some challenges. I'm sorry, but what I was going to say was everything Diana has said is basically what the loss of a child means. There's a lot of trauma when one loses a child, and the grief that comes with it, which is obviously expected. There's a lot of pain that comes with that loss. There's a lot of discomfort in the family. There's a lot of being thrown off because of everything that has happened. It can be very painful to any parents and any family as a unit. Everybody experiences that trauma, even if the baby was like really young, whether it was a miscarriage, whether it was stillbirth. It's a pain for everyone who is involved in that family as a unit, and to the mother and to the father. Especially a child that was wanted, a child that was expected with so much anticipation and anxiety and excitement. That child is really, really missed and wanted, even in their absence. So grief can be weighty. It can take you to a very dark place, as I know people know this. Grief can take you to very dark places, and I think the message is hold on and just be strong. It really is horrible, and there's no word to define it.
Thank you, Jennifer, for that. And the reason why I wanted to begin by asking that question is just to bring into perspective in regards to each and every individual who is affected. There are those, there are those of us who their loss will be a miscarriage. Their loss will be a stillbirth. Their loss will be just after the baby is born. They are those who their loss will be through death, whether a child was sick, probably they got into addiction or even a mental illness or any other physical illness. There are those also we must recognize the loss through the child has been taken away from them. And I'm talking about this specifically because if you have been able to catch the news over the last month or so, we have seen numerous cases of child abduction. And I wouldn't want to underestimate what those parents, are going through. And I'm glad that we have two specialists today who both focus on trauma. And you'll allow me to ask you in regards to the kind of traumatic incident, that kind of traumatic experience. Families and parents, are likely to face or to go through, especially with, a child who's been abducted as well as, death. Okay, so let's also look at how would you define basically loss and grief. I don't know if Jennifer is ready, if the internet has connected. How would you define loss and grief to somebody who is watching this conversation? If possible, put it as simple as possible for everybody to be able to understand even after they find this conversation later. Welcome, Jennifer.
Yes. Yeah. So loss obviously is when somebody or something is taken away from you, and in this case, because you're talking about the loss of a child, it's when the child dies. If I may say, like when you had your child, but then something under different circumstances, the baby passes on. So that is what loss is. It's just the act of being deprived of something that you already. And grief is the natural response to that loss. So the pain that you experience, the depression that comes with it, the horribleness that you feel, the numbness, all that is an experience of grief, and it is the expected response to a loss. So it works as a catalyst to show you areas that have been affected in your life. So it is natural for you to feel grief when you've lost something, someone, and in this case, your child. So that pain is natural. It is necessary. It is not shameful. It is universal. It happens to people who have lost. So there's no shame in carrying your grief, and there's no shame in experiencing its expression. Whichever way it comes through, that's how it comes through. So it is a natural response to the pain that. So let me say also something like mourning. Mourning is now a bit different in the sense that it is it's not a personal thing like grief. Mourning is more physical and overt. It's what you do, especially culturally, when somebody has lost something or someone. So like the cultural perspectives behind how some people, when you've lost a child or you've lost a family member, the things that your culture does. That is the mourning part of it. It's the thing that you do when you've lost something. So grief is very personal. You experience it on your own. You take your own time. There's no benchmark that you're supposed to hit. There's not you're supposed to do. You grieve as long as you grieve, but as long as it does not impair your ability to live your life, to make room for other things in your life, then you're okay. You get to grieve for as long as because it's your pain and you can't really hurry it up, you can't hide it, you can't bury it, you have to go through the pain.
Right. Thank you, Jennifer, for that. We just lost you just a little bit. But Diana, would you contribute to what has been said? Would you like to add more onto that conversation?
Yes, please. I totally agree with Jennifer because loss is the act of something or someone being taken away from you unexpectedly. The reaction to that, the psychological or emotional response to that loss is grief. We grieve because of losing someone. We grieve because of losing a job. We grieve even because of loss of marriage. We grieve because of loss of seasons. So grief is it covers a lot of aspects in life. And that response, the psychological changes that occurs, it can be emotional, it can be cognitive wise, the kind of thinking that now develops as a result of that loss, and ultimately how you behave, because there's a set of behaviors that comes out of that frustration. So that's the basic of loss and grief. And I concur with her. It's very important to allow yourself to go through that phase, because awareness is the beginning of healing and processing the trauma, because it comes in with the trauma as well. Unexpected event leads to traumatic experiences. So being in that space to process what has just happened, it's very difficult, but it's manageable.
Yeah. And and talking about processing the trauma, thank you so much, Diana, for that. From your experience, what are the long-term effects of the loss of a child to those to parents in particular? And as you delve into that conversation, I would like to use your expertise to to please bring into perspective if it's different having experience loss of a child via death and loss of a child via abduction, where at the back of your head there is kind of hope that they might come back, and just jump into generally the trauma itself of both experiences. Yes.
Well, in both experiences, through abduction or death, the family deal with grief. Grief and trauma is there, but the intensity of grieving is complicated for someone who has lost a child through abduction. Sorry, because of the feelings, immense feelings of guilt, immense feelings of blame, the what if kind of questioning, and that unbearable hope that the child will come, will show up one day. But while in the case of losing a child through death, there's also that sort of closure, if I can say so, and you're trying to come to terms to the reality that, the child is not here. And with time, we'll be able to get there. But it comes to abduction, there is that struggle of, what if? What if they show up? Where is the child? And the trauma surrounding the circumstances of, is she dead? Will she come back? So it becomes very complicated. And the long-term effects of that is being in a state of depression, being in a state of anxiety, and post-traumatic stress syndrome, dealing with the same trauma. But when it comes to managing parental grief, when you've lost a child through death, being able to process your trauma slowly by slowly and coming to terms with even the memories that you still have, it helps you with your grieving experience.
Hi, Diana. Sorry, you froze a little bit.
Can you hear me? Hello?
Yes. Just repeat the last part.
Yeah, sorry about that. Parental grief can be complicated, and parental grief because of abduction can be complicated because of the what if kind of questioning. But then again, when you've lost your child and you're able to process your trauma and grief all through, you get to a point of you're able to adjust the reality, of course, with the kind of support that you receive. But the other side, there's no reality that you've lost your child. There's no closure. There's no evidence. And that is what is disturbing psychologically for a very long time.
All right. Thank you, Diana, for that. I thought that it would be important that we use this opportunity to actually address that, because that is something that is currently happening. And if you're watching this conversation and you know anybody in that space, then I hope you can welcome them to come and watch this conversation. Thank you, Diana, for your contribution. And I hear you. And I hear what you are saying, that the impact is it's very heavy in both cases. However, the complication is in the process, because what I've heard from your statement is that in one instant there is evidence and there is some form of closure and an end to life, but in the other space, in case of an abduction, there's a lot of unknown, and there's a lot of guilt and shame that also comes into play, and having to relive that every single day. But in either case, the loss and the grief is absolutely something that we need to recognize, we need to be aware of, and it's something that also that every individual needs to process. As we wait for Jennifer to come back into this, please allow me to also ask you again, Diana, in regards to really the trauma that parents go through. If you can paint a picture of the trauma that parents go through with the loss of a child, and maybe just a little bit in regards to how can they begin to process that trauma, because I'm just thinking of somebody who's gone through this process, who is not a psychologist, who does not even understand that this is actually really a traumatic incident. What are some of those things that they need to look out for? Yeah. And whereas they realize, okay, this is a traumatic incident, how can they begin to process that trauma, probably from their space, because not everybody actually can be able to access treatment and therapy specifically for mental health, because of many other reasons. So please welcome Diana again to just highlight this. And I can see Jennifer is back as well, nice and clear. We will get to you on that. All right, Diana.
Thank you, Gathoni. Let's start with the basic, even when you talk about trauma. The definition of trauma is that psychological response that you go through when you experience an unexpected event that is life-threatening, something out of the usual, something out of the ordinary. And when it comes to loss and death is it's a mystery to human beings. And having experienced something that, as a human being, you get to question your existence. You get to question, so I've lost my child. Who next? Will it be my spouse? Will it be my mother? So most of the time we get into denial because we struggle to accept the reality. And it's very difficult to experience the emotions that do come as a result of death. So when you talk about allowing yourself to process your trauma, is allowing yourself in your own mental ability to face the reality that I've lost this person, I've lost my child, I will not be able to see them, And just from the basic, the biological significance of trauma is whereby the brain protects us from overwhelming trauma. That's why we go through denial. And sometimes we can sit in that space of denial because of our own choices, of being unable to go and face the reality. And the main reason why we want us to sort of, the memories are deposited in the hindbrain, the unconscious part of our brain, the subconscious. And the main reason why we talk of processing is to be able to allow those memories to be experienced at the frontal part of your brain, so that you don't deal with post-traumatic stress syndrome, where it's a situation where those memories are stuck at the subconscious or at the mid part of the brain. So processing is being reliving the memories of the past in the conscious, in your present. You can talk about your experience and you can allow the feelings to flow through, crying, talking about your emotions, irritability, asking all those questions. There's a stage of blaming yourself. Maybe I should have done something. It's normal to go through all this. So my challenge here is allow yourself to sit in that very awkward, difficult space and feel. And because the more you sort of ignore those feelings, the more they persist. But the more you get to acknowledge, the better. So that is what we mean by processing your trauma. And that's the basic, that's the first step. And then being able to monitor, as how Jennifer mentioned, you also don't want to be stuck so that your normal functioning is affected. Be able to monitor the various aspects of your life. How are you productive at work? How is your parenting? Are you able to connect with your kids? How is your marriage? A lot of things. So doing an assessment of how you are responding in your day-to-day life, and being willing to reach out if you feel like you're really struggling to develop your own coping skills, reaching out to therapy. So that's it in a nutshell.
Wow, thank you, Diana, for that. And basically trauma, it's a response. And I love the fact that you've brought into attention how exactly do we process, because I feel sometimes we recognize all these things, but then we don't address exactly how somebody, the lay person just in your house and this has happened, how do you begin to process? And whereas this pain might be very heavy, and as the human being would, given an opportunity, would maximize pleasure and minimize pain for sure. So the instinct might be to go into avoidance because it's really weighty, it's too heavy. And that's okay, but don't let it linger for too long. The process of beginning to recognize and actually processing, allowing yourself to actually feel, recognizing your emotions, is very important. And I like one of the things that both of you have said. Monitor yourself while you're going through this really hard experience. Just monitor yourself in regards to how are you really doing at work, within the family. What kind of feedback are you getting? Because sometimes we get that feedback like you've been so withdrawn, or you've been very irritable. Just when you get that feedback, sometimes it can also highlight some of those things that you have been blind to. And absolutely, if it gets terrible, it's okay. It's okay to actually seek help. Okay, the support of the people who love you and the people who are around you. And I'm very happy to have Jennifer here. And Jennifer began this conversation by introducing herself, and she said that she specifically deals with trauma for creatives. And just allow me to throw you into the hot soup specifically, because we also have creatives, and we know creatives who have lost their child. So it's one thing to go through the loss of a child, surrounded by maybe family and colleagues, the only people who know. But it's another thing when it's a public conversations within everybody wanting to contribute, into that conversation, and get rows of people blaming you, others siding with you, and all these people have created some war, on your behalf. So in regards to trauma, please, if you can kind of bring insight into how creatives probably experience that trauma. Is it different? And also in regards to just basically coping, what is it that they can be able to do? Okay, for the sake of this conversation, I welcome Jennifer to take this.
Yeah, hi. So when it comes to creatives, things can get really crazy because everybody is trying to talk about their lives and to have an opinion about their lives and what they should be doing, what they should have done, how they should have gone about it. The fact that we like saying, as Kenyans especially, when ni msanii uko na pesa, how can you let your child die? You could have taken them to good hospitals. You have the money, you have the opportunities. We'll have so many opportunities, or we'll start blaming them for things. If, let's say, it's a creative who has a history of something like drug abuse, or we have seen them spending money in some questionable ways. You know how sometimes people can be very open with how much money they have and how they spend it, if maybe they buy expensive things. So we are very quick to judge their grief and their pain in measurement with the lifestyle that they lead. For some reason, we think we should have an opinion about how people, first of all, should spend their money, spend their time, where they should go, how they should spend their lives, and then now about how they should be grieving. If they go back to their crafts, if maybe it's a musician and they have lost their child, and then a month or 2 months later, you see them out there performing, continuing with their life, you're like, hey, how fast did you heal from this grief? Why did you heal so fast? Did you not love your child enough? Do you love money so much that you walked out of your grief to go and continue making money? Like we always have so many opinions, and that can be very damaging. And it's not just for creatives alone, even for the lives of the creatives. Because remember that creatives don't live also in a bubble. They have family. Some of them have wives and husbands. Some of them have siblings. They have managers and stage managers and performers. There's just so many people. They're not doing their life on their own. They have so many people playing a part in it. So when we start judging one, or we start judging their pain, we're also extending that judgment to their families, because their families get affected, because their families are also in the limelight. So creatives in the audience today, I think it's important to remind you that at the end of the day, your life is your life. Aspects of it might be public, but you, as much as you're being judged and you're being spoken about, and there's all this drama going around, it's important to remember that you have a craft, and it can be a blessing in the sense that you can use creativity to let out your pain. We have seen people who have used their creativity to create new, amazing content. It can be music, it can be movies, it can be paintings, it can be books, it can be them going all out, because the pain like bleeds on the canvas. That's what they say, that the pain bleeds on the canvas. So they pour their soul out, and it creates so much content that helps other people who are suffering just like them. So the pain of loss may affect the creative, but the content that comes out of it, the creativity that comes out of it, can help so many people heal, because in their pain, they were able to get in touch with their humanity and then bear open that humanity for the world to see.
for the world to experience, for the world to heal through them. And it's a gift. I would look at it as from the perspective of a gift. It's a gift for you to be able to create music that helps millions of people, and especially creatives who have very big platforms. So that's what I would say. I would say that use that creativity, channel that pain into something that heals more people. Again, remember that it is in serving that we are able to get the most joy for ourselves. It is in that creativity that you're going to heal. If you have the gift of creativity in any form and you use it to heal yourself because you're hurting and you're using your pain, you're using that creativity to heal your pain, you can use it to heal other people's pain as well. And that is serving a very big platform, that is serving a very big purpose. And people will come back to you and they tell you how much in your pain they managed to get healing. In your pain, they managed to get some light shed on their circumstances. They managed to see a perspective that they had not seen. They managed to realize that life is not as lonely as it seems. That life is, they are not alone in this journey of life, which is really, we are all looking to be seen, to be heard, to be loved, to be wanted, to be chosen. We're all looking to find somebody who experiences the things you have experienced. And it's not just the happy times, the things that you have experienced in the happy times that bring us together. It's actually the pains that you have experienced together that make the bond tighter. So when you meet people who are open and talk about their pain, it makes you realize that you're not alone in your pain and you're not alone in your struggle to find healing. And there's no shame in looking for healing even when you're really down. So I don't know if that answers the question. Maybe there's something in there that you can grab onto. Back to you, Gadoni.
Thank you so much, Jennifer. I'm really glad to, just to hear you, first of all, very nice and clear. And yeah, it's amazing. One of the things that you have said really resonated with me in regards to the focus or the fact that the creatives are gifted. They have this special and amazing expressive gift and creativity, and specifically how they can use that to also heal the world as well as heal themselves by, singing their pain or painting their pain. And it's really reminded me of the many times that we've listened to love songs of heartbreaks, and they have carried us. They carried us through teenage years, through early adulthood, and even now for so many people. And I couldn't, agree with you more in regards to it can be really distracting, just looking at the audacity that people have because you're a public figure, that they want to say this and that. They want to question you why you're getting back so soon, or why you're not having another child, or why this or why that. But, most importantly is to realize that this is something that is traumatic. This is something that has happened to you. You're the only person who really knows where that shoe pinches. And also, as Diana has said, because we need to also recognize that we need to process. For a creative, you can actually use this amazing gift and talent that you have to actually start the journey of processing. But I will reiterate again what these amazing panelists have said, that if it gets to a point where you need to seek that extra help, it is also okay, absolutely okay, to go that extra step and ask for support. There is so much strength in being able to share, the vulnerable parts of that, because healing is a journey, and we recognize that, and there is no timestamp to it, and sometimes I genuinely feel that sometimes you will feel like you're doing well, and then you find yourself like you have emotionally gone back, and you start the journey again. It is okay. Be patient with yourself. Be kind to yourself, okay, and to the process that you are going through. Thank you for that. In focusing on partnerships and focusing on, well, let me just say marriage or even partnership, and also the family as well. I would like to hear your thoughts on how the loss of a child can either strengthen or ruin the relationships where marriages are concerned. Maybe it's a marriage with no other children, or a marriage with other children, or even basically just the family in general. And let me just allow you guys to pick who will go first.
I will go first. Thank you, Jennifer.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. Well, wow, interesting, because the loss of a child is a very significant challenge in a relationship, in marriage. And I always tell my clients, like, it comes in to test your resilience, to redefine your relationship. And the reason why it becomes a challenge is because of, number one, there's an emotional distance that develops. And this emotional distance develops because you want to sort of reflect what just happened as an individual. And it's so hard to come together as two persons and figure out life. Like, we've lost a child. How are we going to pick up the pieces? What next for us? How are we going to navigate this relationship? So it's very common to feel withdrawn because of the emotional gap that develops. And number two, there's also the different ways of coping. Men cope in a different way, same to women. Women want to express their pain through and through, talk about the baby, the memories, But for men, they feel like that chapter is done, Let's think about the next. They don't want to talk about it. So it becomes very complicated to understand each other. And there are many challenges, when it comes to blame game. Oh, you did this, that's why we lost our child. Maybe you shouldn't have drove you using that road. Maybe that's why I got the miscarriage. Very, very, I wouldn't say pet reasons, but we try to find places to blame our spouses because we are dealing with a lot of hurt, irritability, anger, and grief. And it can fall into faith battles. It can, one person is ready to relate with God, talk about their pain to God, the other person is not ready. So it's a whole paradigm shift in different significant places in marriage that becomes shaken. But one thing I would like to encourage on how you can navigate that is to find a blended way of coping as a couple. What will work for the two of you? Are you going to set time to talk about the grief together? And having that, creating an environment where you can be vulnerable with your spouse. You can talk about those feelings when you're feeling, having a bad day, and doing that with compassion and patience, because it takes a lot of grace. Sometimes we might be tempted to judge them. They are overreacting. They're being very sensitive, but extending that kindness to your spouse. So finding a blended way of coping and sort of doing a pattern disrupt. You've gone through a storm, trying to see how can we pick up ourselves once again, trying to reignite the spark and love that was there before, choosing to do something out of the usual routine to spark your love life once again. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Diana, for that. And I like one of the things that you have said. We have gone through a storm, because sometimes I think when such incidences happen within a family setup, people kind of start grieving or going through the process individually, and there's nothing wrong with that. I think there's provision for going through grief individually, but also collectively, the family, we need to recognize that it's the unit, whether it's the marriage or the family, that has gone through this storm. So you as a partner, recognize your wife, recognize the husband. And as parents, when you're dealing with this process, don't forget that the kids have also had their own impact as siblings. Yes, 100%. I recognize that it might be really, really devastating for you as a parent to lose your child. But also, it's devastating as well for those children to have lost their siblings. So you find that there are many, many instances. And then as well, I don't think the African culture really did have proper provision for adults to talk about some of these things with their children. So kind of kids, tend to be forgotten in this process, and everything is done by the adults, all the mashakayas and everything. I think siblings just appear on the burial day, and then that's it. After that, they don't take part in any other conversations. So it's the we. You have gone through a storm. You are as a whole unit, and it's important to find just special times, special moments to be able to process that as a family. Yeah, and I liked the way of, specifically what you said, to find a blended way of being able to cope as a unit. Jennifer, I don't want to lock you out. Would you like to add on to those amazing thoughts from Diana?
Maybe I would jump in with the mental health perspective. So I don't know, I think I've said this before, but when you're suffering from a mental illness, so let's say with grief, you're going to feel, some people get depressed, some people get very stressed, they get numb, they are unable to express themselves, they get very weird, what do you call them, like expressions of that grief looks very different. So sometimes it's physical, they have headaches that are unexplained, they have sleepless nights, they are just struggling basically emotionally, and that can be very distracting to your mental health. Obviously, you're going to be in a very bad space emotionally and mentally. So when you're in that space, in that grieving pain, it's impossible for you to show up fully into your relationships, and especially the marital relationship for those now who are married. And if it's in a family setup, if you're a mom, it's difficult for you to show up for your kids. If you're a sibling, you're a sister to the one who's just passed on, or a brother, it's very difficult for you to show up fully for other kinds of relationships that are in your life, because obviously this was not the only relationship that you had. So in that period of time, it's very difficult for you to show up fully. If you're not showing up fully, then your relationships are suffering. If they're suffering, then they're getting worse. If they're getting worse, you are unable to show up fully because now you're feeling unheard. So again, it's getting worse and it becomes a cycle. So in that period is when I feel that people need to be very understanding. I think first, actually, this should be said, as a culture, as a people, we need to educate ourselves on grief, and we need to have better conversations on grief. We need to know how to handle people who have lost people, because one is going to happen to all of us at some point. If you're related to someone, at some point you will lose someone. So it is going to happen to us at some point. And if we don't have at least a little bit of a foundation that could help us navigate those seasons, then it's going to be very difficult for us. So it's very important for all of us to have better conversations on grief, to have better conversations on how to handle people who have lost people, like the education system, teachers, school administrators, people who deal with children need to be able to know how to handle a child who has lost a sibling when they are coming back into the school system. If I am an employer, I need to know how to handle an employee who has just lost a child, maybe. So let's say if it's a mom who was pregnant and the baby maybe passed on, maybe it's a newborn death, and they are back, and it's not even 3 months into their maternal leave, because in their maternity leave, because they could not go for 3 months since they lost the baby. What are the systems we have? Are we expecting them to come back before those 3 months are over? Are we expecting them to come back after a month? What do we do when they show up? How do we behave around them? Do we make them feel welcome? Do we make them feel welcome without tiptoeing and walking on eggshells? Do we try to make them feel that we understand their pain to a certain degree, but we are not trying to make things okay because we cannot? Because I also feel like we have a culture of trying to fix things when things don't need to be fixed, and things can't be fixed all the time. And we feel uncomfortable sitting in situations that cannot be fixed. It's like we're very uncomfortable to sit with things that cannot be fixed. So I think we also need to be the whole point is get educated on grief. Have at least a working knowledge, something that you know what to say, what not to say, how to react, how to behave around people. And above and beyond that, I think it's also important for us to be aware that there's going to be this one thing that is unfair, that feels kind of unfair. You as the bereaved, you as the person suffering, you will need to ask for help sometimes. Often you will need to ask for help. And it's not because the people around you are not sensitive, it's because they don't know what to do. Most of us don't know what to do in the face of death. We don't know what you're supposed to do for you, to you. We don't know what you're supposed to say, what you're not supposed to say. So we find it really difficult to do things for you because we don't know if you're going to feel appreciated. We don't know if we are allowed to make jokes. Are we supposed to laugh? Are we allowed to have happy moments? Is it too soon to have a happy moment? Is it okay to crack jokes? Is it okay to talk about death when you just lost someone? We have this idea that when you talk about death, it's like you're calling it. Like those are some of the things you need to be having those educational points on what grief is and how to handle it. So it's a whole, I think it's a whole system overhaul of some sort. But generally, let's get comfortable with asking for help on it because people don't know what to do. It might feel unfair because you're the one who's suffering, but it is okay, and people will learn better. That's what I think should happen. I don't know if does that answer the question? Am I somewhere?
Thank you, Jennifer. Let me just recognize that there are no right or wrong answers here because I think this is just a process that is very unique to every situation, to every individual. But I specifically love that, Jennifer, you've brought the fact of we need to educate ourselves, especially if you're in a position of power or in a position of caregiving. If you're a teacher, chances are, you will find a child who has lost probably a sibling or even a parent or even a grandparent, somebody they care about, basically. If you're a pastor, people are going to come to you for sure. Obviously, if you're a psychologist like us, but even as a friend, it's important. And why is it important? So that we can know how to support properly when that time comes, and just listening to Jennifer talking, I think some of the things that were coming to my mind is the way people would be like, it's God's plan. Don't worry. What do you mean? I had a brother yesterday. I don't have a parent yesterday. I don't have one.
Actually, Gadoni, to speak on that, religion point. Yeah, to speak on that religion point, I think there's something we have not mentioned, and it's the guilt. There's the guilt of, am I allowed, first of all, I think it's two-pronged. One, you have the guilt of thinking, why am I not feeling loved by God in this moment of my pain? Why am I feeling like God has decided, let me make this person suffer? So you have that pain of, I've lost my person, but everybody around me is telling me, you need to trust God because it's God's will. It is part of God's plan. And God knows better. God loved him more, and that's why he took him, my child now, to heaven, a better place. And you're wondering, what are you guys saying? Do you understand what kind of pain I am going through for you to tell me that it's God's will? What kind of God is this that puts me in this kind of pain? There's that. And then other than now that pain of that guilt of asking these questions, you also have the guilt of wondering, am I allowed to question God and to question my faith in the face of this pain? So it's just pain upon pain, because now you're struggling with very many aspects of this grief. There's the loss, there's the doubt, there's the shame, there's the pain, and then there's now the guilt of questioning God. And you're wondering now, will God punish me for questioning? Will God punish me for having these questions in my mind? So religion is also a very big part of this whole grief conversation, because especially as an African society, we have the strong points about how God loved him more. And I don't think that is something you need to be telling to somebody who has just lost someone. I think it can be very dismissive in the face of their pain. It can be very dismissive, very minimizing. It's like you're telling them how they should be grieving, but grief is very personal, and you don't know their history of this pain. You don't know what number of child they have just lost. And then I don't think we have mentioned this, but I think the death is very painful, especially of a child, because there's the recurring triggers. People will trigger you into your pain a lot, because you'll meet people, and because us as a people, we also love asking people, how many children do you have? When are you having another child? When will you have children? Oh, you have one. When will you have another child? When will you bring them a sister or a brother to play with, to be a playmate? you know. So people will keep calling back your child, and you're in so much pain. You just want the earth to open up and swallow you. So I think that is also something that we need to be very aware, that people will trigger your pain a lot. And again, it is unfair, but it is upon you as the one who has lost to just like put on an armor to protect your heart, because your heart will get ripped open often, especially in our society, because of those boundaries of asking people, why do you not have, actually the why is the worst. Why do you not have children? And maybe you've just miscarried a month ago, or you've just lost a baby 2 weeks ago, a newborn baby. You know, anything can happen, and then people will keep asking you why, when, why do you not have children? And then now you tell them, oh, by the way, I just lost a child. And they're like, oh my gosh, don't worry, it's God's plan. End of rant.
Thank you, Jennifer, for that. And I see how you passionately, are talking about this. I mean, this is my own personal opinion, not Chiromo's opinion, and I'm not imposing my values, but I come from a space where I believe that, the fear of God is in relation to respect, not in relation to being threatened or being paralyzed, that you're even afraid to think or to ask question. I really do believe, and there's a lot of research that is linked between spirituality and mental health, and like better recovery, hope, positive outlook of life. So I can't really exactly dismiss spirituality, but have that personal definition of how things should be, like have that personal definition with your higher power. And I think it's okay to ask him questions, because who are you going to ask anyway? You're earthly person. So it's okay to just be your authentic self and your real self. And if you can't be your real self and your authentic self with somebody who is non-judgmental, then it's more difficult. It will be more difficult for you to still be able to have that conversation with a human being. So take time for yourself. And to the rest of us, I like to say we need to do better and be better. Just yesterday, my kids were closing school, and I have two. And somebody was like, oh, so when are you adding another one? I was like, I have a cat. I'm fine. As in, those are three, but you're correct. You're absolutely right. I don't know whether it's a small talk part of a conversation that we feel we must ask that, so that we look like we are conversing or conversating. So I can only imagine if that question is also asked to somebody who maybe just had a miscarriage yesterday or a stillbirth, before it started showing, how much more painful and triggering that can be for different individuals. So going back again, let's educate ourselves. Let's also not be afraid to ask the question, how would you like me to support you? I think for me, that has been one of the most powerful things that I've learned as a practitioner and as a human being. How would you like to be supported? And, that also brings and removes all these ideas that we think we know and have, where supporting somebody is, but maybe they just want to go and have ice cream, but they have been feeling guilty to go and do it alone. Then now you can accompany them. Number one, how would you like me to support? And another thing that I advocate for is, if you know that somebody has gone through a loss, if it's a loss of a child, please don't wait for that person to come to you. Just call them, go see them, go do some shopping for them, and just say, I just brought, this packet of milk and bread, and I'm just coming to sit with you. You don't necessarily have to ask questions, but the minute you actually say, but I've been asking you how you are and you've been saying fine, I think it's really very unfair, because also culturally we've not really been taught. We are all in the process of this evolving, of trying to share, of trying to be vulnerable. We are all in the process of coming out of our shells, that coming out of many years of being suppressed, where our emotions and feelings are concerned and expressiveness is concerned. So if you ask me how am I doing, it's instinctual that I'll say I'm fine. But if we educate yourself, then we can be able to even read the non-verbal. You can be able to see the sadness in the eyes. You can be able to see that this person doesn't look motivated the way they used to be. They don't speak with oomph the way they used to speak. You can really see that even how they have dressed. Those are the non-verbal. Like they don't really care about them. You can see that they don't show up in church or in social circles. You can see that they're lagging behind even at work. You can see those things. And that is just you being intentional in regards to listening to the non-verbal cues of an individual, and to you or us who have gone through that loss themselves. It's okay to ask for help. It's okay to say, you know what, apana, I can't. I don't feel like waking up tomorrow. I don't see the point of living. It's okay. Just say those things out loud and say, you know, I need help. I don't even know how I want to be helped, but I just know I need help. That is actually a beginning of processing. That is actually a beginning of recognizing the weight, the emotional burden. That is beginning of understanding the impact of what you have gone through and really, really acknowledging it. So let's also try and charge ourselves to say that I am not okay. I am not okay. I am not okay. And for you to know that it's okay. You know, I know sometimes that it doesn't feel that way, but the truth is it doesn't take away from you. If you're a wife, if you're educated, if you're a boss or not, whether or not you say I am not okay, it doesn't take away any of those things. You will not lose all those things that you have because you said you are not okay. So listening to ourselves is also very, very important to do that. And you also don't have to tell everybody that you meet everything about what you're going through. So you can choose. And that's why in this case, therapy comes in handy, because that is a safe space. That is a non-judgmental environment. I mean, I'm not going to see Diana tomorrow or Jennifer, and then they start telling me, Sujui, what? In fact, I won't even say hi to them. Or even if I will, it will be, you know, like, you don't have to feel that if I see her, if I bump into her, she's going to tell people what I have gone through. No, it's a non-judgmental environment. And that could work if you don't have, you know, that intimate circle of people who you can share with. And I see that time is really, really running out. And I would like to ask my fellow panelists to just share with us if they know of any support groups. I want them to share with us their handles in regards to how we can find them, how we can talk to them to continue with this conversation offline. And I'll start with Jennifer, and then we go to Diana, or, you know, whichever, how Diana to Jennifer.
I can go first. So to find me as Jennifer, I am available online most of the time. Twitter, Facebook, just look for Safe Space Arena. Like I mentioned before, you can see the poster. So Safe Space Arena is a platform where we talk about trauma, we talk about creativity, we talk about how to handle different types of pain. So it's towards everyone. Actually, because trauma is something that applies to almost all of us. All of us will have gone through some traumatic event in their life. Safe Space Arena is a place to be. If you know anybody who's struggling with something, even if Safe Space Arena does not help you, even if you're coming with a problem that you don't solve, we can direct you to other places that you can get that help. Because again, it's important to remember that most of us psychologists, and Gadoni and Dana can attest to this. We don't work in isolation, and we don't solve all problems. We actually don't solve any problems. We just sit with you and walk with you at your pace and help give perspective where needed. So even if it's something that I can't help personally as Jennifer, I'm going to be with you there to find somebody else. So there's referral procedures. There's always someone that you can talk to. Don't feel, I think it's important to let our listeners know that at no point are you ever alone, really. we are all here available, and you don't have to feel like you have to do things alone. You really don't have to, because I think I said this before as well, that nobody heals in isolation. We all need each other. Connectedness is everything. Community is everything. Especially when you're grieving, you do not want to isolate. You want to be in the presence of people. You want to be communicating with as many people as you can, as often as you can, because isolation is not only an inhibitor to your healing, but it's also a dream killer. Actually, that's a thing. Like, every one of the dreams that you want to achieve in this life is tied to someone else. None of us is going to succeed on our own. So remember that. And last but not least, I think it's also important to remind everyone that there's no shame in grief. As long as you make room for other things, do not lose what you have right now to what you have lost. Because especially, let's say, for people who have other children, do not lose your children who are left behind over the one who has gone. It is okay to create meaning around that death and to live a life that makes the other children also feel important enough in your life. So give as much as you can. Open yourself up for receiving, and remember, we all need each other. It's all community. It's all holding each other's hands. So yeah, I think that's cool.
Wow, it's been such a very enriching conversation. I was just feeling like hyping you guys back here, talking about educating the society, because that's what we do at Still a Mom. So you can find us on Facebook at Still a Mom, Twitter at Still a Mom Africa, on Instagram as well at Still a Mom. Our core business, if I can say so, is bereavement and trauma support. And apart from that, we do matters advocacy. When you talk about educating society on grief, we've specialized more with the hospital, where we train medics on even how best to support a bereaved person, what they can say. And the quality of their grieving experience is impacted by how the hospital perceive their loss, the family, the community, the religious community, and even HR. We have been trying to advocate for bereavement leave, and we are hoping we are going to get there. So you can get us on those social media platforms. I can leave my number as well, Gadoni. That's our number where you can call us and book a session, 0719 629 787. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Diana, for that. I would love to have you at Chiromo. You train us on some of these things. I'm sure even Jennifer and I would benefit from that. Thank you so much, panelists. Thank you so much, ladies and gentlemen, for having joined this conversation. This is going to remain on our Facebook page. Follow these panelists, continue with the conversation, ask them, as you have heard from their mouth, they are very, very experienced in their own space. And I'm sure they're also willing to learn in regards to, what you're really going through, and also bringing insight, because even we as practitioners, we don't know. And I like what Jennifer has said. It's not our responsibility to actually teach you. We are not masters where life is concerned. And I believe as well that the human being is actually the master of its own universe. The brain is literally developed to be able to resolve its own issues, but sometimes there are challenges here and there. So all you need is just that support and that guidance. But and you understand best what you are going through. Thank you so much, panelists. If you catch this conversation, our toll-free number is 0800 220 000. Feel free to call that line to share it in any way you can. Our social media handle is at Chiromo Hospital Group or across all platforms. And mine is at G_Mbogwa1 across all platforms as well. I'd like to wish you a wonderful, wonderful evening and great end of the week. I can't believe that we are almost halfway through July. This year is flying. So God bless you all, and I wish you all the best. Let's keep doing this. Let's keep supporting each other, and do better and be better. Yes. Kwaherini.